This is Anarchast.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. I have coming in from Colorado, I believe, or no, you're in Oregon right now, aren't you?
I'm in Pennsylvania right now, Oregon tomorrow, Colorado for the winter.
Yeah, his name's Joby Weeks, and he's been in a few different states the last few days, so I got a little confused. And he's started many operations, including Mountain Hours, and he does Ron Paul Coin and Ron Paul Limo. We'll ask him all about all those things. He's also an activist, and he's also an anarchist. So let's start with Joby. How did you become an anarchist?
Well, let's see here. Back when I was 21 or so, I read that book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, and I always chuckle because they say if you're not a liberal in your 20s, you have no heart. If you're not a conservative, by the time you're 30, you have no brain. And so I kind of started out as a liberal, then became a Republican, because of Ron Paul, and I wanted to become a delegate, and work within the system. And I actually became a national delegate and went to the convention. And then I started following Chuck Baldwin, decided I was going to be a constitutionalist since Ron Paul, dropped out. And then I became a libertarian after I read Michael Badnarek's book, Good to Be King. And then I think the difference between a libertarian and an anarchist is about 6 months of reading. Stumbled across you and Stefan Molyneux and my buddy Adam Kokesh kind of prodded me along. And so now I can say I'm a full-fledged anarcho-capitalist. Been reading a lot of Ayn Rand stuff. I started with Atlas Shrugged, of course, and just kind of went down the rabbit hole, buddy.
And you brought up so many great things, including Ayn Rand, which is interesting, Atlas Shrugged. And of course, we were just down in Chile at Gulls Chile, named after the book, Atlas Shrugged. And so there's many different interesting things going on in relation to all of that. What's your take on Ron Paul at the moment? He's doing a lot of interesting things.
Oh, I love Ron Paul. I'm really impressed by his ability to pull all the groups together. It's like herding cats. I've never seen anyone. Yeah, I guess it makes sense. The message of liberty has a lot of support, and so he's bridging the gap between the old generation, the fuddy-duddies that are all dying off, and the generation next. You can't stop an idea whose time has come. Ideas are bulletproof, and so are bitcoins. So I think that Ron Paul, he's made a huge influence on my life. I read his book, A Foreign Policy of Freedom. Then went into his and the Fed book and Liberty Defined. I really enjoyed Liberty Defined. If everyone could read that book, we would be a lot further along on this awakening that I'm seeing our generation having. So yeah, he's got a TV show now. I'm subscribed to it. I listen to his updates, and I think he's right on a lot of issues.
Yeah, you brought up herding cats, and I say that a lot. With us anarchists, I think that's our biggest problem, is that we're so individualist. It's really hard to organize ourselves. Yeah. We even tried recently, we tried to do Just Us jury nullification movements, which we've all started to do, and I'll talk to you a bit about that. But we were all down in Chile, Luke Radowski, all past guests on Anarchast, Bob Murphy, Angela Keaton, Josh Tolley, who will be a future guest, Jordan Page, and many others who were all either past or future guests on Anarchast. And we came up with this plan to all launch on one day, and it all got screwed up.
Ben Swan launched a week early. I was out on a cruise in the middle of the ocean, so I didn't have internet to be able to upload my video. So, yeah, it is. But at least we came out of there with kind of a mission that, your vote for the lying politician, doesn't matter, because the guy, once he's in office, he reneges on all the promises he made while he was campaigning. And now you got a douchebag making bad law for the next 4 years. So individual nullification, remembering that we've got two other votes, our petite trial jury vote and the grand jury vote. Those are probably the most important, because a lot of our governors and sheriffs don't have the balls to enforce the 10th Amendment against the feds, state nullification, if you will, and block these federal mandates. Colorado just did with the legalization of marijuana. However, a lot of them we need to nullify individually. So Going in and saying not guilty, for victimless crimes is a great step. And you don't need a majority. You only need one juror out of 12 to say, hey, he's obviously guilty. He broke the law, but that law shouldn't exist in the first place. You know what I'm saying? So, I love the whole Just Us movement, and I really hope it catches some traction.
Yeah, it's really funny as anarchists because I think they choose a lot of the potential jury from voting lists. And of course, most anarchists don't register to vote. So here's another funny, odd thing as anarchists. If you do want to make a change and you can't make it politically, really, that's already been shown not to work. Although I will ask you about the Colorado legalization of marijuana. That was interesting how you did that. But it is funny, though, that if you're an anarchist, go and register to vote. Don't vote. Or if you do vote, put a write-in vote for Ron Paul or whoever you want, Mickey Mouse, doesn't matter. But then you might get on a jury. And then again, check out Just Us jury nullification, and you can actually help to change some of these laws by just saying if there's no victim, there's no crime. And that's totally the case. If there is no victim, there is no crime. Let me ask you about what you've been doing in Colorado. You were part of helping legalize hemp or cannabis or marijuana in Colorado. And I also want to ask you about what's been going on recently with the federal government coming in and shutting down a lot of these things.
Yeah, back in 2009, basically Ron Paul didn't get elected, and I was in Breckenridge, and I was kind of upset. I mean, I had actually won the election to become my county's vice chair for the Republican Party, and then a month later they nullified their own election and had a re-election so they could get me off because they found out that I was a libertarian sneaking into their little Republican good old boys club. So I was a little disillusioned, kind of pissed off, and my buddy is an attorney, and I figured, why don't we legalize weed? I can at least do that. So we drafted up a petition, and I just stood in front of the bank, the grocery store, and the post office, just collecting signatures, saying, "Hey, if you support legalizing cannabis, sign here." And I got enough signatures to get it on the ballot. And then we had our election in November, and Breckenridge became the first town in America to legalize cannabis for everyone over the age of 21. So I thought, well, that was pretty easy. It didn't take more than 2 months to do it. I couldn't understand why it was illegal for 80 years. I mean, anybody can do it. All you have to do is just stop smoking weed for a little bit and go out and take a little action, get a couple of your buddies together, collect some signatures, get it on the ballot. So we just used the same petition to get it on the state ballot, and Colorado just became the first state to completely legalize cannabis for everyone over the age of 21, which kicks in January 1st. So about a month from now, you'll be able to go in and purchase cannabis just like you buy beer and liquor. So it's kind of exciting. And in Breckenridge specifically, we actually created our own local currency. We got a little barter network now, and you can actually go down and buy all types of cannabis-infused products with our local currency. So you don't even have to use Federal Reserve notes if you don't want to.
That's great. And you're sitting there wearing a Bitcoin shirt, so we should talk a bit about Bitcoin.
This Bitcoin shirt I bought at PorkFest, it cost me $1,100 because I spent one Bitcoin. On it, and now Bitcoin's trading about $1,100 a Bitcoin. So I actually wrote the guys the other day. I'm like, hey, you remember when I gave you a Bitcoin for that shirt? I'm getting kind of chubby. Maybe you could get me an extra large one, So we'll see if they send me another one. Who knows?
Yeah. But I should point out again, for anarchists, I don't support voting for people, although I guess in some ways I do. I guess if Ron Paul was running for president, I would say go and vote for Ron Paul. Maybe it'll change something. He'll get killed if he gets elected, but that's a whole other story. But what I do support, though, is voting if there is an actual option on a ballot to actually negate some of these laws. So an actual ballot vote to say yes or no to illegalization of hemp, definitely go out and vote if that is the case. But otherwise, I mostly stay away from the political arena. Let's talk about Bitcoin a little bit. It's been quite the wild month or two here. What's your thoughts on the rise of Bitcoin?
I've never been so excited in my entire life. I mean, we've been, in Colorado, we've got an organization called We Are Change Colorado, and the 11th of each month, We go down and we protest in front of the Federal Reserve and hand out DVDs, Freedom to Fascism. I probably handed out 30,000 copies of that. Trying to educate people about this banking scam and, how there's more debt than there's currency to pay the debt. And it's like a game of musical chairs and guarantees, foreclosures, and bankruptcies. It's how the elite keep reconsolidating their wealth and their power, how we need to vote with our wallets and use a different currency. And finally, whoever this Satoshi guy is created Bitcoin. Of course, there's name coins and Litecoins and a couple other options as well, but Bitcoin seems to have got some traction. And I'm excited. I think that if 1% of the world's economy is done via the Bitcoin network, that's $1 trillion a year. There's only going to be 20 million Bitcoins, so I mean that's going to be like $80,000 per Bitcoin. So I think there's quite an opportunity to get in and make some money watching it, and spending it with local like-minded individuals. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, this rise has brought out a lot of detractors, including Gary North, who wrote a completely ridiculous piece that I might respond to soon on dollarvigilante.com. He's about 80 years old, and he says he's an Austrian economist, but he really, a lot of his ideas on economics I find to be totally wrong. And then he put out a big thing on Bitcoin just recently, and it was so misinformed that it was just embarrassing to read. And one of his main reasons why Bitcoin will collapse is because, and this is to quote him, what goes up must come down. That's his theory on why Bitcoin will collapse. But as people start to use it, and you've used it, I've used it, you start to, as soon as you start to use it, the very first time you use it, you realize this is a revolution in money and banking. This is so exciting. If you haven't used it, if you're watching this, just go and open a wallet. Go to blockchain.org, I think it is, or .net, and just open a wallet. You can do that in about 1 minute, and find somebody who has some Bitcoins and do something for them, or a service, or even just ask them to send you 10 cents worth of Bitcoins. That will be in your account in a few minutes or less, sometimes seconds, and then you can go and spend it on the internet. Now Amazon is accepting Bitcoin through gift cards. Subway restaurants is very close to having all their restaurants start to accept Bitcoin. So you can really spend Bitcoins anywhere. So it is totally exciting. This is a complete revolution in money and banking, and the government can't stop it. And it's just incredibly exciting, and all anarchists should be at least interested or excited about this currency. Even if you don't know what it is or how it works or any of that sort of stuff, you should look into it. This is going to change the world.
Oh, absolutely. And when people say, well, it's not gold or it's not silver, well, I say use every currency you can outside of the Federal Reserve, whether you want to use gold and silver. But in my experience, people bury their gold and silver, put it in their safe. They don't spend it. They spend the hot potato money. It's Gresham's law. Good money chases out bad money. And with Bitcoin, it's instant. It's anonymous. There's no fees, no chargebacks, no taxes. It's no frozen accounts like with PayPal. I don't know if you've ever had your account frozen by PayPal, but I freaking hate PayPal.
Dozens of times.
So, the idea is what's the value of being able to move $1 billion around the world anonymously? That's what gives it value. I mean, if you're in China wanting to move $1 billion into America, you wire it, the U.S. government takes 30% off the top. Only $700 million gets in. $300 million as a shipping and handling fee? Are you kidding me? You just convert your RMB up into Bitcoin, fly to America, turn your Bitcoin into dollars. You just moved $1 billion into America with no fees. So I think that's once the rest of the world realizes, hey, look, here's a way we can actually do business without the government stealing all of our productivity. It's really catching on in China. There's 1 billion people there. India, there's 1 billion people there. I mean, a lot of people don't like to see what happened in Cyprus. I mean, if you went to bed with $100,000 in your bank in Cyprus, and you wake up on Monday morning, you only had about $60,000. I mean, they were skimming 40% off the top for anyone that had more than $100,000. Just stealing people's money right out of their bank accounts. You can't do that with Bitcoin. So I think it's got a lot of potential. And in the next 100 years, that's when the last Bitcoin will be mined. I'm sure in the next 3 years, it's going to be pretty mainstream. I mean, it's picking up a lot of speed right now, but within 3 years, it's just like anything new. First, it's scoffed at and ridiculed, and then it's violently opposed, and then it's accepted as self-evident. Everybody's using it, just like the internet and every other disruptive technology out there.
Yeah, that's right, and it is really exciting. And China, I believe, has been the main reason for the latest big rise in Bitcoin. You can go to a site called fiatleak.com, and you can actually watch where all the Bitcoins. This is another exciting thing about this currency. You can actually watch in real time economic activity, and so in real time you can see where money is flowing. This is super exciting, and if you turn it on anytime during the nighttime in the U.S., you just see every single Bitcoin on earth going to China. And you're exactly right when you brought up banking and how bad it is. I've got businesses around the world. I'm always transferring money. It takes, of course, if it's the weekend, you can't even transfer it, and you have to get in your wire request before 1 p.m. Eastern, and then they charge a lot of fees, and then it takes a day or two, and sometimes up to 5 days to get there. And then I've even had a central bank take our money before and say, hey, that's a fair amount of money. Who are you sending it to, and who are you? And we have to fill out all these know your clients and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's too much bureaucracy, too much regulation, man. The Buckminster Fuller said it best. Instead of fighting the Fed and these banksters and the pharma cartel and the oil cartel, head on, create a system that makes the old obsolete, and then the market just leaves. It's like it happens over and over again. I mean, we're seeing it with our wellness company. A lot of people are starting to shift and go into prevention rather than just taking a bunch of drugs that only go to manage symptoms. We're seeing free energy devices, magnetic motors, the carbon nanotubes. Nikola Tesla, his name is now to one of the hottest cars that Elon Musk has put out, the Tesla S-Class electric car that goes 300 miles on a charge. I mean, this is the best time to be alive. I mean, with the 3D printers now, I mean, they're never going to be able to confiscate people's guns. Now you just press a button, you print a gun. Now you can guarantee that freedom will reign, and tyrants won't be able to really take control now. So, we're going to change up manufacturing with 3D printers. We're going to end the organ trade. I mean, why would you steal an organ from a Chinese prisoner when you could 3D print your own bladder or kidney right here and install it? You know what I'm saying? So a lot of things are coming to the market that are making it really an exciting time to be alive.
Oh, absolutely. You can now buy with Bitcoin private space flights through Virgin Galactic. This is like incredibly exciting times. And you brought up 3D printing. Here's a little bit of inside information. Our next guest on Anarchast is Cody Wilson, who has been really leading up the 3D printing charge, and he's also getting into Bitcoin. He's launching something called Dark Wallet. We'll be asking him all about that on the next episode of Anarchast. But this is incredibly exciting times, and I still hear from a few anarchists who live in their parents' basement and they don't have a job because they live in the U.S. and for whatever reason they still haven't figured out how to make money when there's tons of opportunities out there right now, especially Bitcoin-related opportunities, and they kind of still seem sort of downtrodden, like, oh, the government's pulling me over every day and I can't get a job because the economy's so bad because of the Federal Reserve and the government and the regulations and taxes. And it's like you just said, just forget about all that stuff. We're moving forward. This will not be stopped.
You got to remember, 100 years ago, 95% of the people ran their own businesses. Only 5% of them were wage slaves working a job. Now, 100 years later, 95% work for the 5%. Everybody's looking for jobs. Why the hell would you want to look for a job in the first place? Why do you want to be a wage slave and a debt slave and have to pay all these taxes and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Why don't you become an entrepreneur and create value for the marketplace? There's so much opportunity. It doesn't take a lot of money to start a business. You can start a network marketing business for $100 and become a multimillionaire. So it's out there. I have no pity for people that, tiptoe through life to arrive safely at death, to find the reasons and excuses to justify their mediocrity. There's too much opportunity around us right now. You could become a millionaire 1,000 different ways in this country and around the world, not just in America. So, just get off InfoWars and start focusing on positive solutions and run with it. Bitcoin is a great. Everyone's been praying, oh God, please. If you invested $1 in Bitcoin in 2009, it'd be worth $1 million today. $1 would buy you 1,300 Bitcoins back in 2009. 1,300 Bitcoins is $1 million, $1.3 million. There it was. What happened? I could tell you 100 other examples of opportunity that are slapping people upside the head. Now it's up to us to take hold of it. Knowledge is not power. It's applying the knowledge that is powerful. And everyone's got all this knowledge. Oh, I know about the Bilderberg Group and IMF and the World Bank, Federal Reserve, and blah, blah, blah. But they're not applying any of it. So if I can leave anybody with one thing, start applying your knowledge and position yourself in front of these trends so you can make some money and get yourself free. Because if you're in communist China and you're a billionaire, you're more free than the debt slave in free America. So what it really comes down to is just applying that knowledge that you've been spreading, Jeff.
Oh, thank you. And you brought up so many great points, and I completely agree with you. Just to start with, why are a lot of people in the U.S. with this job, wage slave mentality? And there's nothing wrong with a job. If you have no money and you have no skills, that's a great way to learn some skills, is to go work for somebody, and that's fine. But it all started with public education. They started to that's the whole reason for government public education, is to train people to be wage slaves. They train them to come in at 9 in the morning, leave at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, obey all the commands, and memorize mostly irrelevant or wrong information during that entire time. And then they get their badge of obedience, their graduation, and then they actually go to college and spend their own money for 4 more years of it. By that time, they're in their 20s. They still haven't done anything. It's crazy.
$50,000 in debt, man.
It's crazy, and all that information's free on the internet.
It's such a scam. It's so sad to see people fall into it, because once you go to college, and especially graduate school or medical school, by then you got so much invested in the system that you can't rock the boat at all. I mean, if you start speaking out against the FDA, they'll pull your medical license. Now you don't even have the ability to pay off your student loans. So now you can't rock the boat. You just got to prescribe all those drugs. So yeah, man. I mean, I'm so glad that I got Atlas Shrugged early. I read that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Robert Kiyosaki's book talks about the difference between profits and wages and the cash flow quadrant, why you want to focus on being a business owner and an investor rather than being an employee or being self-employed, etc. So, if you're new to this, read a couple books. Life is a personal development course, in my opinion. Learning shouldn't end ever. And, read Think and Grow Rich if you haven't read it. Read the Cash Flow Quadrant and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Yeah, totally. And one thing I would like to mention, a few things actually, at dollarvigilante.com, we talk about a lot of this stuff, and our basic subscription is $15 a month. It's the cost of a magazine, and you will be connected to people around the world who are thinking a lot like Joby. We've got people around the world, including in the US, who are doing things, and you can get access to a great network that way. And also, previously on Anarchast, we had Skinner Lane, who's doing a great venture down in Santiago, Chile, called Exosphere, and we'll have a link to that down below. It's I believe it's 6-week course, or maybe 12-week, I forget. Yeah, I think it's 12-week course, solely on developing entrepreneurship skills. And that 12 weeks will be worth more than your 12 years in public school, a lot more, and worth a lot more than any business administration degree you can get from some college and waste another 4 years doing nothing. So definitely look into that. And there's so much opportunity. And you also, you brought up so many great things. I'm sorry to take the camera away from you for this length of time, but you brought up that so many businesses can be started with no money. Almost every business I've started in my life was started with essentially no money down. I started selling condos here in Acapulco about 4 years ago, and then I said to the owners, why don't we, because they're all in the same building, why don't we make it into a hotel where if you're not there, if you're not staying at your place, we'll rent it out to people. So now I own a hotel. There was no money down. Other people paid for it. And you can do that around the world. You can't do it as much in the U.S. because, of course, in the U.S. you need a real estate license, and then you need a apply to permission to open a hotel and pay taxes, and it'll become too economically inefficient. But in a lot of the other parts of the world, you don't have to do any of that. There's just tons
we did something like that. We were doing VRBO and Airbnb with our ski lodge, and oh man, the state sent their secret shoppers in. Oh, you need to pay us a 10% tax, blah, 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 to the town. I'm like, this is my property. Why do I have to pay you tax? Well, they were going to put a lien on the property. So, the simple workaround there, because the free market is always smarter than these bureaucratic statists, is, instead of having it be a hotel, we just started charging a monthly fee. We called it the Business Owner Retreat Network, born. Because joint ventures are born here, and friendships are born here, and good ideas are born at our ski lodge. And so we got about 200 members paying us $100 a month. That's $20,000 a month right there to cover our mortgage and the maids to come on Mondays and Fridays. And now I have my ski lodge full of people. Don't have to pay any tax to the town. Still covering, my mortgage and making money, just as if I had a Airbnb ski lodge, etc. But now I have entrepreneurs that come through. Every day of the week, I've got a new group of people coming through, going skiing, and the brainstorming sessions that we have in the hot tub afterwards, is priceless. So, there's always a way. Just be clever. Instead of saying, I can't do this or I can't do that, always think, how can I do it? Because your subconscious starts working in the background. In possible situations, you start seeing light at the end of the tunnel. So just the self-talk is really, really important. Your attitude determines your altitude. So always try to keep a positive mental attitude when you're working your way around seemingly impossible situations and roadblocks. They're not roadblocks. They're stepping stones. If you can think of it like that, you're going to be well on your way to success.
Oh, totally agree. And that's actually one of the things at Exosphere that they really spend time on. They don't just teach you how to be an entrepreneur. They actually teach you how to think differently about ways to do things and actually get rid of all the clutter in your brain about the problems and things and get you thinking a different way. And so that's really interesting to hear that you're doing that. It's also interesting to hear what you're doing with your ski lodge, because that's almost exactly what we're doing here in Acapulco. If you ever want to come down, by the way, it's called Las Torres Gemelas Private Suites. We'll have a link down below. And we do many similar things as you. A lot of cool, interesting people who are looking for opportunities show up, and we sit in the pool down at the on the beach and talk about these ideas. So that's fantastic.
Well, that's great. We're having an event in Breckenridge on January 11th and 12th. That's Saturday and Sunday. Josh Tolley's flying out. Maybe you'll fly out, Jeff. You're welcome, of course, to talk about being an entrepreneur, etc. Go snowboarding. Check out the cannabis scene in Colorado. And so maybe we can do a little barter. You come up and snowboard with me. I'll come down and surf with you.
Oh, totally. So here's another business opportunity that just popped up. I'd be happy to if my schedule allows for it. And I was just talking to Luke Radowski, who was the 100th guest on Anarchast. And we're going to start up a sort of a media style school, teach people how to get into media, how to do investigative journalism online, activism, how to make money from it. There's so many opportunities. Now, the thing that I should say is, if you've never done much in life, so you've just gone to school and played video games or whatever, you probably don't have much skills. So these opportunities aren't there for you yet. But if you can learn these skills, then you can do much like what Joby's doing, what I'm doing, what Luke Radowski's doing, what everyone, Ben Swan, who I hope will be on Anarchast soon. They've all created all sorts of businesses from nothing, and it's not that hard. And you just have to get out of that mindset of, oh, I can't do it. There's too much regulation. There's too much problems. That's what entrepreneurs do, is find ways around roadblocks and make things easier for people to do. We're getting almost over half an hour here, and I try to keep these shorter because everyone has ADD nowadays, and that's not a disease, by the way. That's just a function of technology in our lives today, and we do have a bit of a hard time concentrating for too long on some things. So, Joby, why don't you, if you want, talk about anything you'd like to talk about, and maybe let people know about some of the things you're doing, including mountain hours, and take as much time as you want, but we should start to wrap this up.
Perfect, no problem. Well, yeah, I mean, if you're interested in starting your own local currency in your neck of the woods, you can go check out Mountain Hours. Just look for Joby Weeks on YouTube. Joby Weeks Mountain Hours. You can watch the video there on how to get started in terms of setting it up in your area. We've got some people in Long Island, New York doing it, down in Tampa, up in Tennessee, up in Minnesota, some Aloha Hours out in Hawaii. Of course, get involved electronically with Bitcoins. If you ever want gold and silver, I mint gold and silver coins or medallions for people. So do that. If you've got any friends or loved ones that are dealing with health challenges, various allergies or asthma, arthritis, diabetes, lupus, MS, hepatitis, various forms of cancers, we've made a discovery. My uncle's the physician of the year, one of the top doctors in the country. And so just email me if you'd like, or go to our website, ourwellnessrevolution.com, ourwellnessrevolution.com. Kind of goes over the discovery we made in the field of health and wellness and nutraceuticals, the natural, non-toxic, pharmaceutical-grade products, the alternative to the prescription drugs that the pharmaceutical cartel wants to push down our throats. I also wrote a book. You can download for free at defeatdiseases.com. Defeatdiseases.com. You can read that and pass it along to anyone that might be dealing with any kind of health challenges. Some people brush their teeth to prevent getting cavities, which is good, but not a lot of people are doing anything to prevent getting cancer and diabetes. And I would have to say, if it was between losing my teeth or losing my life, I would prefer to lose my teeth. So, some smart ways of preventing these issues from happening to us. We don't want to be a statistic. We want to stay healthy and free. So yeah, just keep in touch. Find me on Facebook. I'm happy to answer any questions. And if you'd like to come visit us in Breckenridge, we're doing that event with Josh Tolley on January 11th and 12th. So thanks for having me on, Jeff, and I look forward to seeing you in person again one of these days soon.
Yeah, sounds good. January 11th and 12th, that might work for me. I'm on my way up to Vancouver for a conference on, I believe, the 20th. So maybe I'll see you there. And it's also interesting to hear all the medical and natural health things that you were doing. I've also been starting up some medical tourism things, mostly taking advantage of, yet again, government problems. So Obamacare came out. Now no one has medical insurance in the U.S., and some people do need actual surgeries and things, although quite often these things can be fixed quite naturally. But if they actually need a real surgery, we're setting up some places, probably in Mexico and Chile. So maybe we should talk about that. I'm also probably going to launch a health site, which is going to talk about all the things you were talking about, how there is so many breakthroughs in what we know about what actually works, and definitely pharmaceuticals and chemicals are the last thing you should be taking for almost anything. And there's so many ways to get off them all. And that's really what this whole, again, the government medical fascist system has done, is they get people, they don't fix the actual problem, they just fix the symptoms. So someone says, oh, I don't feel good, and they say, oh, well, take this pill, and it's some sort of lobotomizing brain pill because they're a little depressed. Well, they're a little depressed because they're slaves. And they live in a very slavish environment where they're constantly being fined or taxed or regulated. That's their problem, but they just keep giving them these chemicals, and those chemicals cause problems, so they give them more, and by the end they have like a fishing tackle box full of pills, and they don't know why they're so sick.
That's why. And eating all the genetically modified, refined and denatured and processed green harvested factory food and the fluoridated water, all that comes to play too. So yeah, it does suck being a slave, and when you have millions of dollars in your bank account, life sure does become more exciting. But, even people that have millions, these movie stars, you hear it all the time, overdosing and killing themselves, etc., because they're just chemically unbalanced because of the shitty food they eat. So, yeah, wellness it's a balance. You want to be well physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially, etc. And so hang out with me and Jeff, and we'll help you on your way to finding, true happiness, because being a slave sucks.
Great message, great interview. Thank you so much, Joby. I'll probably be seeing you soon. And so that's another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.